You ever look at a family photo and feel like a stranger in it? Like everyone's smiling, everyone belongs, except you? That was my life. From the outside, we were the perfect family, the kind people admired, laughed with, envied. We were all that and more. Just as long as you didn't include me. There was love in that house, warmth, celebration. Just not for me. Never for me. I saw it every day, in how my father clapped the loudest when my brother won anything, in how he beamed when my sister brought home an award, in how he hugged them, remembered their stories, made their favorite dinners on birthdays. He was the kind of father others envied, just not to me. He wasn't cruel, he didn't scream, he didn't hit, but somehow that made it worse because I couldn't point to anything and say, "This is why it hurts." It just did, all the time. I was the youngest of three. Ava was born first, graceful, magnetic, the one everyone talked about. Jonah followed, funny, athletic, the golden boy. Then there was me. People rarely said my name, not because they forgot, but because they rarely had a reason to say it. My mother. I don't remember her, not really, just faint shapes in old photographs, the smell of lavender on a pillow once. The way Dad's face went still whenever her name came up, I was told she died shortly after I was born. The details were always vague. No one liked talking about it, especially Dad, especially when it came to me. From as early as I could understand things, I knew something wasn't right. Dad was warm to my siblings. He helped with homework, took them on solo outings, laughed with them, joked, bragged. But with me, polite, cold, quiet. I was understanding, I was patient, but I was also young. I remember once, maybe I was 6, I asked him outright, "Why don't you like me?" He blinked at me like I'd asked about the weather, then said calmly, "I like all my children, but you don't always make it easy." That was it. That sentence, like he had rehearsed it, like I had done something wrong just by existing. I didn't know what that meant, but I did know what his tone meant, what his expression meant when he glanced up at me like I caught him by surprise. I knew not to ask questions ever again. I didn't respond. I just remember my throat tightening and something in me quietly folding shut. I never asked again. From that day on, I started to understand how invisible a person can be when they're still standing in the room. My birthdays were afterthoughts, if that at all. Ava got themed parties with balloons and cupcakes. Jonah had family BBQs, gifts from cousins, songs. My 10th birthday? Nothing. No cake, no card. Just Dad asking me to take the trash out. I wanted to ask him to take me out to eat. Somewhere. Anywhere. I wanted to know he loved me the same he loved Ava and Jonah. I was dying to hug him the same way Ava did on her birthday, when she got her present. I couldn't. It wasn't the same for me. I wasn't welcome. I remember sitting on the back steps that night, watching the porch light flicker, wondering if they even remembered. I don't think they did. At school, I tried to shine, not because of myself, not because grades mattered to me at that age, because I wanted to earn my place back at home. I won a science fair once, first place, brought the medal home, placed it on the kitchen counter, sat in front of it, beaming. I was waiting for someone, anyone, to ask where I got it from. No one did. No one said a word. Ava had once gotten second place in a writing contest. Dad took her out for dinner. Jonah broke his personal record in track. Dad invited the neighbors over to celebrate. When I aced my entrance exam for the gifted program, he nodded once. "That's good," he said. "Just that. Nothing more." I started keeping my accomplishments to myself. After all, what's the point of showing something when no one looks? The thing is, they weren't a bad family. They were just blind when it came to me. Extended relatives adored Ava. Jonah was the golden nephew, the pride of every reunion. Me? "Oh, you've gotten taller," someone would say. Or, "You're Ava's little brother, right?" They never got my name right. Some stopped trying. I tried to join in. I really did. I asked Dad to teach me how to ride a bike. He was too busy helping Jonah with soccer drills. I asked Ava if I could tag along with her to the park once. She said it was more of a friends thing. Eventually, I stopped asking. There's a kind of emptiness that doesn't cry, it just settles. Quietly. Permanently. The hatred didn't start loud. It crept in like a leak in the ceiling. Slowly, steadily. A silent rot. I began to hate the sound of Dad's laughter with them, the proud clapping. The way he'd light up around them like he couldn't help it. I'd sit at the dinner table, watching him lean in to hear Ava's stories, watching him ruffle Jonah's hair, and I'd quietly press my fork into the meat just to stop my hands from shaking. When I was 14, Jonah broke his arm. Dad took a week off work to be with him. When I sprained my ankle playing basketball in gym, I limped home alone. Dad looked up from the couch and said, "What happened?" I told him. He nodded. "You'll be fine," he said. Then went back to the TV. I grew older. I got taller. I started looking more like him. That only made things worse. He'd look at me and then quickly look away. Ava once said I had mom's eyes. He flinched, and then his face turned red with anger. I think that was the first time I remember him screaming at my sister. He told her to go to her room. Ava was taken aback, so was I. Only she wasn't used to this. I was. I think I heard him apologizing to her later that night. At 17, I decided to leave. Not in anger. Well, maybe a little bit of anger, but mostly just in resignation. By then, I had started working. I wasn't making enough to be on my own, at least not comfortably, but I figured it couldn't be much worse than how things are right now. I packed my things after school, left a note on the kitchen counter. "Thanks for everything. I'll be okay." That's all it said. Not because I felt thankful, but because I didn't know how to say anything else. I waited to see if someone would call, if anyone would ask, where I went, if they'd post something, reach out, apologize. But no one did. Not Ava, not Jonah. Worst of all, not my father. That's the part that stayed with me. Not just that I left, but that they let me go. Update. After I left my house, I moved into a shoebox apartment on the edge of downtown. It smelled like mold and fried oil from the diner below. The walls were thin, the radiator clicked at night, and the ceiling leaked in winter. But for the, first time, it was mine. I could breathe in that silence, even if it was lonely. I worked double shifts at a warehouse, nights at a gas station on weekends, ate noodles for dinner, missed rent a few times. But I never asked anyone for help. Not that I had anyone to ask, but especially not them. I told myself I didn't need them, that I was better off. But every time I passed someone hugging their dad outside a coffee shop, or heard someone laugh and say, "That's just like my sister," something cracked again. It was worse during the holidays. I spent my first Thanksgiving alone. Made microwave stuffing and stared at a frozen turkey ad on TV. Watched old Christmas movies in a hoodie on the 25th with a broken space heater and a flickering lamp. I told myself I didn't care. That I didn't even like Christmas. But that was a lie because I did care. I cared when Ava posted a picture of the family on Instagram, all matching sweaters and cocoa mugs. Dad had his arm around Jonah. They looked happy. My name wasn't even tagged. I wondered if they even remembered I existed. I thought about messaging them once. New Year's Eve, just a "hope you're doing okay" kind of text. But I stared at the screen until it went black. Deleted it. Didn't send anything. Sometimes I'd pass by our old neighborhood, not on purpose, not at first, but eventually I started doing it just to see. The porch light was still there. So was the wind chime Mom used to hang. I wondered if it still made the same sound when the breeze hit just right. I stood across the street once for almost an hour. No one came out. No one saw me. I left before I could start hoping someone would. I tried dating. Tried therapy once, but it's hard to explain emptiness to someone who grew up full. They listen, they nod, but they don't get it. How could they? When you grow up watching love happen around you, without you, you start to believe there's something wrong with you, something missing. You wonder if maybe they were right to leave you out. That kind of doubt doesn't scream. It just hums underneath everything, even joy, even success. I met her 2 years after I left. Emma. She was everything I thought I'd never deserve. Warm, funny, patient. She laughed at my stupid jokes, held my hand when I felt small, and never asked about my past unless I wanted to tell her. We talked about the future, quiet evenings, traveling, maybe even a dog. One night, she looked at me over dinner and said, "Someday I want to meet your family. I want to be part of that." I smiled, but inside it cracked, because the truth was, I didn't have a family to introduce her to. Not really. I never told Emma about Dad. Not about Ava or Jonah either. How could I explain a family that pretended I was invisible? How could I explain the silence that followed me like a shadow? We talked about marriage once. I told her I wasn't sure if I'd ever be able to walk into a room with my family again, if they even cared. She squeezed my hand and said, "Then we make our own family, one that sees you, one that loves you." It was the first time I felt something real, something like hope. But even with Emma, there was a sadness I couldn't shake, like a quiet ache in my chest whenever I thought of what was missing. I imagined the day I'd tell her about my father's cold nod when I won that exam, about the birthdays I spent alone, about the nights I wished for a hug I never got. Soon enough, I got promoted at work, even bought a used car. I think I was doing okay for myself. I had one person in my life I could count on. Emma. Work was good. Maybe it wasn't so bad after all. One time, I ran into Jonah at a grocery store. I think he was with his girlfriend. I was in line behind them. He looked right at me, paused, and then looked away. Didn't say a word. Like he wasn't sure if I was me, or maybe like he didn't want to know. I paid for my things, drove home, sat in my car for an hour holding the receipt like it was proof I still existed. That night, I dreamed about our house again, only this time I wasn't in it. They were laughing at the table. Dad was serving Ava's favorite pie. Jonah was making everyone laugh. My chair was empty. No one noticed. I woke up and cried, not loud, not angry, just silent tears in a dark room. I survived. Not because I was strong, not because I was brave, but because giving up wasn't an option. I kept waking up, kept going to work, kept hoping that one day, maybe, I'd find the place where I belonged. Because no matter how invisible you feel, there's a part of you that refuses to disappear. And that part of me is still here. Update. I never thought I'd hear from them again. Not a call, not a text, not even a word. After all those years of silence, being the invisible son, the forgotten shadow in their perfect family photos, I was certain they'd moved on without me. So when Jonah's voice cracked over the phone and said, "He wants to see you," my first instinct was to hang up. Right when I was about to, he continued, "He doesn't have long." I froze. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what had happened. Part of me didn't care. I tried to pretend I never heard. I sat still, heart pounding, my mind a whirlwind of memories and pain. Why would they want me now? After all the hurt, the weight of every cold birthday, every ignored holiday pressed down harder than ever. I wanted to run. To stay in my tiny apartment where silence didn't sting so much. But Emma, always steady, always gentle, looked at me with those clear eyes and said, "Are you sure you can live with yourself not knowing why he asked for you?" Her words pierced through the fog of doubt. She held my hand and smiled softly. "You don't have to do this alone." And somehow, that was enough. I packed a bag, swallowed the lump in my throat, and drove back to a place I hadn't called home in years. The house was the same, the porch light flickering, the wind chime still hanging, but everything inside felt fragile, like it could break under the weight of what was unsaid. When I saw Dad lying there, thinner, weaker, but still stubborn, my breath caught. His eyes met mine, filled with a pain I'd never seen before. He didn't say anything, not for a while, just stared. He was holding back tears. I didn't understand. I wasn't having it. I was angry. "If you wanted to apologize, you can save it," I said, finally breaking the silence. "I'm sorry, son," he whispered. Son? 17 years I had waited for him to acknowledge that, and now he decides to do that? I was fuming by then. I had had enough. "You don't get to call me son anymore." He just looked at me, clearly defeated. He took in a deep breath and spoke again. "Just hear me out. Please. When your mother gave birth to you, something went horribly wrong. The doctors, they gave us a choice. They gave me a choice. It was either you or her. I didn't know what to say. I just stared at him blankly. I loved your mother. I loved her with everything I had. I could not watch her give her life away. But she wouldn't let me." Dad wasn't holding back anymore. He was drowning in his own tears by then. He wanted to save her, the woman he loved with all his heart. But Mom, barely conscious, made him promise otherwise. She made him promise that they'd let me live instead. That promise became a burden he carried silently, turning into years of coldness and distance. "I pushed you away because I didn't know how to survive the pain," he said, tears streaking down his face. "I hated myself. I hated the situation. I blamed you. I was wrong, but I did. My mother traded her life for mine. She made sure I lived, but she couldn't make sure I was loved. But now, after all these years, I think I understand. I took her from him. I left. No words, no sympathy, just aware now." He passed away a month or so later. Jonah called to let me know I'm not in touch with anyone from my family. I don't think him explaining changed a lot for me. It did, however, make me understand him more. I don't think I fully forgive him. I don't. I don't forgive my siblings, the rest of the family. But knowing what I know now, what I took from him, I don't think I'll be able to forgive myself either.